Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Disclosures of the Third Kind. You're listening to me. Crypto's decided that he wants to be in the camera today, so we're playing along with this. Well, today's video, ladies and gentlemen, is actually going to be about the new UAP File Drop that came in. So this will be, get the microphone around the right way, that would be handy, wouldn't it? This will be drop number 3. Now, there was more interesting documents on there, I will say that. I had a trawl through there yesterday, and the most interesting ones I've printed out for you here today for this video. So we will go through them document by document, outlining what makes them so important, and yeah, why this number 3 now changes where we are in perspective. So file drop number 1 was pretty much stuff we've seen before that was on the FBI vault, the CIA vault, etc, etc. It was no different to what we had seen. It was disappointing, actually. File drop number 2 was pretty much the same, I'm not going to lie, but file drop number 3, I mean, although it's still disappointing, it's actually has a glimmer of hope in it, because there's some documents in that are of actually some interest and are actually starting to lead us to a point where we go, okay, well, and the videos as well. I mean, the videos there wasn't much to be taken from the videos, to be honest. Too far away to see any structure of the craft, but you can see that they're performing maneuvers that are outdoing any or outperforming any craft of the modern age, or they're not. You can tell that they're not a craft of known origin. They seem to be something that's moved by intelligent control, but that's of not earthly origin. But we just haven't got close enough up shots of that craft to confirm that it is what it is. So that is why we are still where we are at the moment with file 3. I think, and I think most of you will know the same, I think they've got many documents and many videos that show extraterrestrial bodies and the craft up close, but I think we are getting them step by step, and this is just warming us up for what's to come. So let's talk about the first document I've got. The first document is actually from April the 1st, 1948. Here we are, and it's marked, if you can see that there, folks, it's marked secret at the top there. Okay. And this document, I'll read it out for you. This document is headlined Priority. So it's from CIN, CFE Tokyo, Japan, to the Department of Army, Washington, D.C. for CSCID concerning, I think that's concerning Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio, which is where, if you know Dayton, Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is where the Roswell craft was taken to be examined. That's where it allegedly taken. I believe that's where it was taken, and all the witnesses and testimony led to that point. So yes, it's very important. So, information concerning, in reply, site CX59769, and we are looking at report control is A1917, pilot 13 Air Force at 0955, 1st of April 48, flying P-47, I think that says, or F-47 craft, I think that says P-47 to be honest, P-47 aircraft heading 180 degrees, altitude 1500 feet, indicated at 124 degrees, 3 minutes east, 12 degrees 52 minutes north, weather scattered, CF something, R reports, C something, 3 out of 10 base, 3000, top 600, visibility unlimited, sighting flying object approximately 3 miles east, 1A heading 360, altitude estimated 1000 feet below him, unidentified object, estimated speed at time of sighting 200 miles per hour. So nothing that wasn't achievable by the US Air Force or any other Air Force at that time. Pilot turned left, attempting to intercept, unidentified flying object for more positive identification. At this time, flying object made a turn of 90 degrees left, leveled out and accelerated, disappearing in approximately 5 seconds. So, okay, that's pretty rapid speed, actually. Described as having a turtle back and an indistinct dorsal fin. Well, now that is interesting. Again, there were crafts at that time that were of secret US developments that you could sort of say, okay, you could tie it to the flapjack, the Army at US Air Force's flapjack, but that was out of production by then. They weren't using it, and more so, it was propeller operated. It wasn't this fast. Described as having a turtle back, the shape of the object that of a half moon, closely resembling a flying wing type aircraft. Again, half moon. What's that reminiscent of? That's reminiscent of, we think back to the sighting on June 24th, 1947, from pilot Kenneth Arnold. He described 9 saucer-shaped, or he says the press span it as saucer-shaped, but actually there were 9 half moons, weren't they, really, flying in formation, going 1,400 miles per hour. So this thing was only going, what, 200 miles per hour? But it was out of sight in about 5 seconds, so that's pretty fast. The shape of the object was that of a half moon, we've said that. Flying wing type aircraft, estimated wingspan 30 feet. Estimated length 20 feet, colour silver. No report, no exhaust trail was observed. 5 seconds elapsed time for disappearing. Would indicate exceedingly high speed and great acceleration. Reporting officer is considered sincere and non-excitable type and firmly believes he sighted the object. A report will be forwarded upon completion of an investigation of this incident. Received, then there's just a file number. Okay, well that's very interesting. That first one's very interesting. So we're looking at the same sort of craft that was spotted by Kenneth Arnold on June 24th, 1947, really. Again, it's out of range. It was only going 200 miles per hour, but it was out of range or out of sight in 5 seconds, and that's very fast. It's not far off what Kenneth Arnold explained, is it, really, when you think about it? Right, the second document of high interest to me is this one here, to the ATIC, that Wright Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. Data on saucer photographed on July 31st, 1952 in Passaic, New Jersey. If you can see that document there, folks, that's what that one looks like. Apologies if my video recorder isn't as great quality for you to pick it up, but again, I will read it out to you anyway. All can be found on the Department of War /UFO.gov when you're looking. Known witness to this. So the photographer was John H. Riley, 28 of 571 Main Street. That's Patterson, New Jersey. Occupation, he's a full-time photographer. Known witness, George J. Stock, 221 Brooks Avenue, Passaic, New Jersey. Date is the 31st of July, 1952. Now, 52 is a very important year because this is the year of the saucer flap. Washington, D.C. sightings in, I think it was between June and July for 2 weeks or 2 weekends straight. There's a massive saucer flap going on. Project Blue Book has just been set up to try and explain away, and they're having major upheaval from the public to explain what these things are. So 1952 is a very important time. The time is 10:15 a.m. Place 200 Block Brooks Avenue, Passaic, New Jersey. The weather is clear in the mid-80s. Colour of saucer is greyish. Interesting. Altitude, 200 feet at lowest point. Riley says he was visiting Stock, his friend, and talked to him in front of Stock's home. Stock first saw it. Riley says it travelled southeast at a leisurely speed. As it drew nearer, it came to a complete stop and hovered overhead for several moments at about 200 feet from the ground. It was near enough to shoot at with a rifle. He described the disc as about 30 feet in diameter and greyish in colour, with a large dome jutting from its centre. The saucer made no sound when hovering and moving. Before taking off again in a southwest direction, it tilted as though to observe the ground. An antenna, or something like it, darted out of the dome's top for a moment and then was withdrawn. He snapped several pictures with Stock's camera. Saucer was in sight about 7 minutes, so there's sufficient time there to get a decent sighting. So he's got a witness there with him as well, and he's got the picture, obviously, but the picture isn't attached to this, which is interesting. Wonder why they haven't released that. Disappeared very rapidly to the southeast. No fixed negatives, but Riley will not part with them. Could not have thrown object in air because one photo shows object very high. So they tried to debunk it. Can't be debunked because it's clearly not a hoax. Riley took his negatives and was away, probably trying to sell them in New York City. Today, as no data is available on camera, its speed, etc., 3 other witnesses reported but unable to canvass neighbourhood today for names, etc. Residents 178 Bogart Road, River Edge, New Jersey. Charles Gregg, staff writer at the Herald News, Passaic, New Jersey. That is a very interesting document. That's why I screenshotted that and had to print that one off, because there's no picture that came with it, for one. If there is a picture out there and I've missed it, please do let me know in the comments, folks, but I couldn't find one. They haven't included it in there, which is very interesting. Clearly they've tried to debunk it, and he's got pictures of it. He explains an antenna coming out the top of this dome, and it's a flying disc about 30 feet in diameter, which has been explained by many other witnesses. 7 minutes to be seen. You must have got a pretty good idea of what it looked like, and clearly he has. And that looks like it hasn't been debunked, that sighting. So that's an interesting one. We will put that in the interesting pile. We have here. Go through what else I have here. I had one here actually about a phantom reef, which was interesting. So I've got quite a few here. I'm only going to pick out the ones that are high interest, folks. I'm not going to bore you with all the other ones that could be just palmed off, but the ones that are real interest here. This was one I managed to snapshot on the website, which I thought was interesting. Right, the tick. So this document, I can't remember what it came from, but it came from a document from 1948, which was a number of sightings really that have been put down on this document. So first we'll go with the Phantom Reef. The Phantom Reef, on November 24th, 1947, the Navy denied that it had found a Phantom Reef or other obstruction to navigation at a point about 400 miles west of San Francisco. The Navy, and sorry, before I continue, that is the document, by the way, folks. That's what it looks like. The Navy survey ship Maori sent out there in response to reports of ships that some high object had been seen in the water in that neighbourhood. Reported that when in the approximate altitude and longitude of the supposed obstruction, they picked up an echo from something in the water 1,600 yards from the ship, but that when they had steamed to within 400 yards of this, the echo vanished. That ties in with Richard Dolan's underwater unidentified submerged objects, which he's been studying. Again, I've not got into unidentified submerged objects very often, but they're always seen, aren't they, near the water, which I find very interesting. That goes the same for the UFOs, sorry, that they're always seen near the water. So that is one theory, I think, and this is a very interesting case. There seems a possible connectability between the various elements so far considered. Later, on January 7, 1948, there were occurrences in the neighbourhood of Wilmington, Fort Knox, Franklin, and Nashville, all of which must be now familiar to the archivists of the Signal Office. Something like a flying disc was pursued by one Lieutenant Mantell and 2 other pilots. We know about this case, Mantell being killed while in the process of attempting to gain altitude to get close to whatever it was he was chasing. Also in this connection, it may not be amiss to mention the details of 2 military officers who were said to have been bringing back material evidence from flying discs, one of which was said to have met with some kind of accident over Maury Island, Puget Sound, around June 1947. We've covered this case before. And I thought I'd just mention it because it was on that document anyway. We know about Puget Sound, Maury Island, and Thomas Mantell. They're all very harrowing incidents. Thomas Mantell, who chased the saucer, who went to 30,000 feet. Either he lost oxygen because he didn't have a mask. But it was interesting that Leonard Stringfield came forward with a witness who said actually there was a mask in his plane. So our other option is that he was zapped out the sky by a defence mechanism of this saucer, which is a very, very real possibility. Right, so what are our next very interesting files on here? Okay, here we go. Office memorandum. A standard FBI type document. You will have seen these before. The office memorandums. Getting closer in the camera there, if you can see that. Righty ho. This one is to SAC at Seattle. From Mark Felt. Subject, sighting of unusual objects. Date is the 13th of February 1953. Just after the Flying Saucer Flap 52 and just before the big debunking campaign of the CIA committee. Robertson panel, thank you, my memory eluded me for a minute. Right. At 10:30 a.m. on the 2nd of October, or the 10th of February, sorry, 1953, I've got it's American dates, so I've got them around. Miss Delma J. Seagram, Seattle Civil Defense, telephonically contacted the office to advise that a Miss Wiskerken, first name not obtained, 7355 33 Road, Northeast, informed by telephone at 10:10 a.m. the same date that she, Mrs. Wiskerken, had observed a very large object quite high directly above and somewhat west of Sand Point Naval Air Station. Mrs. Wiskerken described the object as very like a large parachute and stated that it was so silver that she could hardly look at it. After approximately 2 minutes, the object appeared to fade away to the north. The above information was furnished to Colonel Spencer Rayner, OSI, to S.A. Sullivan of IFO 3, Lieutenant Commander Robert King, DIO, 13th D, at 10:45 and 10:50 a.m. respectively. On the 12th of February 53, Mr. Brains, IFO 3, furnished S.A. Ducommon the following information. Braid stated that the other intelligence agencies had been notified. According to Braid, Mrs. Kathleen Carter, 4499 Union Bridge Lane, Seattle, an employee of the Signal Division, Seattle Port of Embarkation, informed IFO 3 at 16:27 hours on the 10th of Feb last that at approximately 15:08 hours on the 9th of February 53, while passing over the University Bridge in a bus, she observed a bright object in the sky high over Sand Point Naval Air Station, but a little to the south. She said the sky was fairly clear at the time and it was the extreme brightness of the object which called her attention to it. She could furnish no description and no information as to the speed of the object. No one else on the bus observed the object. I mean, it's certainly an interesting one. You've got 2 sightings here of a very similar object, but we haven't got much corroboration. We can certainly put it in the interesting pile. Yes. Right. This next document is another interesting one, but this one is a newspaper clipping that the CIA seems to take great interest in. If you can see that there, flying saucers seen over city. We will read out the newspaper clipping now. A flying saucer that hung motionless for nearly 5 minutes, then streaked away, was observed Sunday over South Seattle by several persons. Arthur Owley, 4430 49th Avenue, who was a major in an anti-aircraft artillery unit during World War II, said the object appeared to have 4 sources of light. Owley and 2 friends observed it through binoculars. Owley said the saucer moved extremely fast, after hovering for a while, and it disappeared in a matter of seconds. This is an important sighting because you've got Arthur Owley here, who is an anti-aircraft artillery during World War II, so he's used to seeing different types of craft and the speeds they will have conducted. So we've got a very credible witness here, and several others by the sounds of what this report is saying, that it disappeared in a matter of seconds. I mean, that's shocking. Yeah, I find that one very, very interesting, and I can see why the CIA also found that one interesting. We should put that in the interesting pile. This one here is very, very, very hard to read. I will do my best, folks, to read it. So sorry if I stutter. Just me struggling to read it. It is a... so it's the headquarters, something bombardment wing, office of the intelligence officer, something, assuming that's, so it's something City Air Force Base, Weaver, South Dakota. Begins with an R, but if you can see that there, that's the sort of page I'm reading. It's hard to blow it up, but because I only took screenshots of this, so I was wanting to get these out to you folks as soon as possible. So this one says here, 1st of July 1948, subject, report of flying discs. Commanding General Air Material Command, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio. Attention, something, Project Sign. Project Sign at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Interesting. 1. In compliance with paragraph 3, regulation number 45 and 5-5, headquarters, Strategic Air Command, Andrews Air Force Base, Washington, D.C., dated 19th February 1948. The following information is submitted for your information and guidance. A. Flying disc sighted over, I think that's Rapid City Air Force Base. Yeah, that, or something. Something looks like Rainid. Either Rainid, looks like an N. City Air Force Base, Weaver, South Dakota at 21:30 MST between 15th and 20th of August 1947. Sky clear, no clouds, stars visible, visibility 30 plus, wind. Calm. C. Name, occupation and address of witness, Major Elmer H. Homer, Junior, Intelligence Officer, 28th Bombardment Group. I think that is a P, Rapid City Air Force Base, Weaver, South Dakota. No photograph visible. See enclosure number 1. Object sighted, flying discs. Number was 12 of them approximately. They were oval shaped, 100 plus, apparently in feet length. Colour, they were yellowish white and brilliant. The speed 500 miles plus. 6. What was their heading? Approached the base from the northwest to a southeast heading at 8 to 10,000 feet altitude. When at 5 to 6,000 feet and a mile or so west of the field, a turn to the right was made by the entire formation in a wide arc, and while turning began a climb at 30 to 40 degrees angle, accelerating very fast, disappeared on a southwest heading. Maneuverability, very maneuverable, held a tight formation, all equally spaced, and remained 80 something remained 80 during all manoeuvres. That doesn't make sense. Oh, remained so during all manoeuvres, okay. All equally spaced and they remained so during all manoeuvres, which is odd. 8, altitude 10,000 feet when first seen. Descended to approximately 6,000 feet near the field. Sound, no sound whatsoever. The night was very still and no aircraft engines were running or other noises to distract. Exhaust trail, there was no exhaust trail whatsoever. There is no doubt as to the existence of these sightings, but there is little substantiating evidence in as much as no other witnesses are known and no pictures could be taken. The objects sighted were visible and for approximately 1 minute. Their form remained the same throughout the time observed. For the commanding officer, Major U.S. Air Force Lee, I can't read that name, apologies folks, Elmer H. Hammer Jr., Major U.S. Air Force Intelligence Officer. Another credible witness there, and here is a depiction of the sorts that he's drawn the picture for us. If you can see that folks there, that's the oval shaped saucer. Again, you've got them in the formation there, evenly spaced. Now those are some interesting documents, I will say that much. They're giving more characteristics of these. I mean, not that we've not seen before in deep detail characteristics, but these are interesting in as much as they are admitting that whatever these things are, they do exist, but we just haven't got enough evidence on them, which is interesting. Clearly, we've got very credible witnesses seeing the same things, doing outlandish maneuvers that shouldn't be possible. And I do genuinely believe that the US Air Force know more than they are letting on. They're just giving all the things that they've kept tucked away for so long and drip feeding it to us so we get our heads around it slowly. Again, it baffles me, some of these sightings. They don't make sense, but again, I don't think they are supposed to, because they're not us. The extraterrestrials piloting these craft are not us, and they don't make the same maneuvers. Sorry, not the same maneuvers, but they don't have the same technological capabilities. They have much higher capabilities and are able to perform these maneuvers, whereas we're just looking at it in amazement, and it baffles us. And exactly as it should, we're not at that capability. So, an interesting file release, folks, and we found some interesting documents. Again, that's only probably, what, 5% or 10% of the documents. There are others I've read through that weren't as interesting we've seen before. Those, to me, were the most interesting and the most fascinating, that you could say, okay, that's very, very, very interesting. And they're not palming it off either. They're saying, yeah, I think we are seeing something. We've got credible witnesses here. Clearly, they're keeping newspaper clippings, which they did anyway with a lot of their files, but the CIA kept particular newspaper clippings that went, okay, that needs to be looked into. So, yeah, thank you for watching me for file drop number 3, folks. And, yeah, stay tuned for the next episode. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but we will soon find out. I reckon I'm going to look at Rendlesham Forest next. That's because I'm going to take a trip down to Rendlesham Forest at some point and do a scan of the area. They've made a model in the middle of where the craft came down, so I will potentially make that my next video, but stay tuned to find out what it will be. I am Disclosure of the Third Kind. Thank you for watching again. Crypto won't say anything, but I will speak for him. Yeah, keep watching those skies, folks, because we're definitely not alone.